Today is a really bad day for Alec Baldwin, and it is something that I feel bad for him about, but also at the same time, this could have easily been avoided. And when I say that, I don't mean just, you know, uh, checking and rechecking guns and stuff like that. I think that what happened here, judging by everything that I've read so far, we still have facts coming out, but regardless, it seems to me that a lot of this was due to ignorance. A lot of this was due to, uh, a lack of gun safety training. I think that if there was a good bit of gun safety training, this would not have happened. But I think that the reason that there wasn't, which I find more important, is the fact that you have a group of people in Hollywood. And when I say a group of people, I mean this is mainstream thought for Hollywood, for coastals in general, I think. You have a lot of people who just straight up say that guns are bad. We need to get rid of guns. And if not get rid of guns, then what we need to do is somehow make them so hard to get that people just don't bother with them anymore, with the ultimate goal being the elimination of the Second Amendment. What they end up doing is to get to this goal is push blind fear, really. You have all sorts of weird campaigns sprouting up from all these different activist groups, Moms Demand, Everytown USA, who just put on these displays of absolute ignorance, and they spread that ignorance. They don't want to debate with anyone on the pro-gun side. You have, people who, Dana Lash, for instance, who's very pro-gun, huge pro-gun advocate, has challenged multiple people multiple times to come to her and say, hey, let's talk this out, or let's debate these issues, let's debate these facts, and they absolutely refuse to, because the last thing that they want is to actually have facts introduced into this conversation. It is a carefully well-orchestrated narrative that they are putting out, and they can't have it disturbed in any way. If facts do come out, then guns aren't going to look half as scary. Guns aren't going to look like this all-encompassing evil like they're trying to sell. The blind fear that they're trying to push on people would suddenly start to dissipate, and they can't have that. The weird thing about this is that it's this blind fear that is actually putting more people in danger than not. If they had actually pushed education towards guns, this might not have happened. This and many other tragic accidents might not have happened. Many people go their entire lives not really understanding what guns are about and what real safety training looks like. Nobody understands guns more and how dangerous they can be than those who educate themselves about it. And I'm talking about pro-gun advocates. The amount of things that pro-gun advocates do, and educated advocates, I should add, to make sure that the situation is safe, that no one's going to get hurt, is I would say a lot more in depth and reliable than people who push blind fear. It is the people who push blind fear that are robbing this nation of the education that they could have when it comes to gun safety. Here's the thing. The anti-gun movement and their wish to get rid of all these guns is a pipe dream. It's never going to happen. The amount of guns that we have in this nation, on a conservative estimate, is 40% of gun owners in America. All of the population amounts to 40. I think that is on the conservative end, and to be honest with you personally, I think that is a a very low number compared to what is actually happening in reality. In reality, you have millions of guns sold every year. You have upticks that happen randomly due to one event or another. Anytime a Democrat so much as looks weird at a gun, you have a lot of people rushing out and going to buy one. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw record highs of gun sales happening. And it's because America understands that this is the best means of defense. And so you have many people in this nation who own guns who aren't telling you that they have a gun. They don't want to tell you that they have a gun, just in case at some point in time the left manages to pull off its grand scheme of anti-gunness and manages to have them banned or starts to issue mandatory buybacks or something of that nature, which, by the way, it's likely never going to happen. But in the event that it does, people don't want others to know that they have them. And they have plans. Many of them have plans to hide their guns if ever they do become illegal. So you're never going to get rid of all the guns in America. There are far too many. There are far too many people who want to keep them even if they are illegal. And there's a very good reason for that. Guns are the best means of defense. No one knows that better than the people who actually own guns legally and have educated themselves about it, have undergone training. We should be pushing this instead of blind fear, this training and this education. We are a nation that was founded with guns in mind. We have gunpowder running through our blood. All right, guns are an important part of this nation. And while it is true that they do cause some destruction, I mean, that's no one's arguing that fact. Much of the gun violence that you see talked about from the media or these activist groups, a lot of it is suicides and gang violence. The amount of actual law-abiding citizens who are committing illegal gun crime is actually rather low. It's not necessarily something that you would actually hear from the media, but it's true. They don't want to talk about that. Again, they want you to be scared. If we were a nation that embraced education, if we were a nation that actually trained our children growing up, adults, in the firing range, make it a part of everyday life, make it so normal that guns do not become this big of an issue ever again, things like this right here would never have happened. They would have been so careful. They would have been extra careful. They would have been double careful. The amount of precautions they would have taken would have amounted to nobody getting hurt, period. Now, I'm a huge advocate of guns in movies. I like action movies. I think they're great. And I think some of the best shots in all of in cinematography history have shots where the character is pointing a gun directly at the camera. It's some of the most badass shots you've ever seen. All right, and I think that I would love to continue to see shots like that. However, what we need is to make sure that people understand that you cannot be careful enough. People like Alec Baldwin have not been pushing for that. People like Alec Baldwin have been out there advocating for this blind fear that I've been talking about. This non-education. This lack of training. They don't even want you to go near a gun. They don't want you to they don't want you to think about a gun without having some sort of nightmarish reaction to them. That's their ultimate goal. But in the end, this is only going to hurt people. This lack of education. Right now, up at redstate.com, I talk about this. Alec Baldwin's accidental shooting demonstrates a desperate need for education on firearms. I recommend that you go read it. I go further in depth here, but I wanted to reiterate this. And I wanted to make this very clear. People like Alec Baldwin, who I feel bad about, I'm not going to mock him. He is in my opinion, a victim of his own ignorance here, and he made 2 other victims because of his ignorance, one of which has died. I'm not going to mock him because I feel like mocking him would be mocking them, and that's not something that I'm into. As much as I dislike Alec Baldwin and have anger toward him for mocking and calling out my friends by name and making fun of people like me, and pushing this ignorance and pushing this hatred and just all around being not a very pleasant person. I'm not going to jump on him here, but I do think that he represents something that causes more harm than good. And if we're going to stop this, we need to stop the mentality from spreading that he has. It is a mentality of ignorance. It is a mentality it's a dangerous mentality, to say the least. What we need is more education, more training. Because you're not going to get rid of guns in this nation. It's not going to happen. It's just not. Even if they made guns illegal tomorrow, you would have a bunch of people effectively rise up and say, no, it's not happening. And that would probably be followed by a very come and take it attitude, which would result in a lot of bloodshed. I'm talking civil war here. It probably would result in a civil war. So it's just not going to happen, folks. A gun-free America is a pipe dream. And if that's going to be the case, then let's stop trying to push this blind fear and start trying to push education. I'll see you in the next video. Hey, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it or learned anything, please hit that like button and be sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification icon so you're made aware when we upload new content. See you in the next video.